Hello and welcome. I am Scott Walker. I am a professor at Western Illinois University in the Fire Science and Fire Administration programs. I'm also the author of the textbook Fire Service Ethics. In this short video, we will be exploring three basic questions. The first question is why should we study ethics? The second is why should you, or anybody else for that matter, be ethical? And finally, we're going to explore why ethics is so important to the fire service. I hope you find this video informative and helpful. Thank you. Let us begin our discussion by asking a fundamental question. Why should you, or anybody else for that matter, be ethical? Probably your first instinctual answer is, it's because it's the right thing to do. That's certainly consistent with what we are taught as children, what we hear from teachers, our religious leaders, and most importantly, our parents during our formative years. Here's the issue with that, though. Doing the right thing can be very hard. It often seems as though cheating, lying, are rewarded. It's a good way to get ahead. And sometimes doing the right thing can get us punished. So why do we cling to the idea of doing the right thing? Let's explore some basic rationale as to why ethics and doing the ethical thing is not only the right thing to do, but it's advantageous to us as individuals. One of the earliest concepts of ethics is taught to us as children, and that is the avoidance of punishment. If we do the right thing, we're rewarded, and if we do a bad thing, we're punished. However, children quickly learn that that type of ethical reinforcement really only applies if you're being watched. So the question becomes an issue of, is avoidance of punishment really an ethical foundation, or is it an act of self-preservation? One of the primary definitions of ethics or integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching. And that's an important distinction between simply behaving and behaving ethically. Certainly, one of the advantages of ethical behavior is that we don't have the fear of recrimination. And that lack of concern, that clear conscience, can shape our behavior, and it can shape the way we relate to other people. People with guilty consciences tend to be guarded. They tend to withdraw. They tend to look over their shoulder. People who do the wrong thing also assume that everyone around them does the wrong thing as well. It's how they rationalize their behavior, and that makes them more guarded. In the end, the avoidance of punishment is not a really great reason to behave ethically. It's certainly an inducement, but it doesn't form the foundation of an ethical person. When we look at individuals who seem to get ahead by cutting corners, by cheating, by lying, we can mistakenly come to believe that unethical behavior is a way to become happier. As we develop and get older and develop a moral sense, we learn through self-understanding that self-respect is a key to individual happiness. In fact, people who do unethical things routinely go through a process called cognitive or moral disassociation. It is their methodology of rationalizing their behavior so that they can maintain some form of self-esteem. Prisons are full of people who rationalize their behavior because it's very difficult for even the worst of us to accept that we're not good people. So we rationalize our behavior to maintain that self-worth. Conversely, people who have high self-esteem because they are ethical tend to be more optimistic about their future. They are also more optimistic about the behavior of those people around them. People who are ethical, people who have high self-esteem, tend to feel as though they have a greater control in their own lives. They feel less like victims and more like free agents involved in their own destiny. Maslow's theory of needs refers to self-actualization as the epitome of human accomplishment. At the root of self-actualization is love of oneself, and that begins by acting ethically. I've already mentioned a few times that we may mistakenly believe that unethical people seem to get ahead. The truth of the matter is ethical behavior is a key to success. Think about it. Don't you prefer to deal with people that you trust? And do you not tend to avoid dealing with people that you do not? Would you hire a painter if he had a reputation for bad, shoddy work? Would you let a plumber into your home if they had a reputation for stealing? Would you hire a contractor if they had a reputation for not finishing the job after they took your money? Individuals with reputations for high ethical standards find it much easier to consistently build and maintain professional and collaborative relationships. For society to work, we must have an inherent trust in each other. As it appears that ethical standards in business are diminishing, those with high ethical reputations become even more sought out after. Maintaining your integrity and having a reputation for honesty and for dealing with people fairly will make you a highly successful individual. When you talk to someone who cheats, steals, or lies, one of the excuses they give is that everybody else is doing it. The truth of the matter is that if everyone else was doing it, there would be no advantage to the behavior. Anarchy would rule. At the end of the day, society only works if we follow the rules. And the only advantages, perceived advantages to cheating, stealing, and lying is the assumption that everybody else is going to be honest. Ethics provides for a stable, productive society. As a member of that society, you have an obligation to coexist with others peacefully. Society cannot move past basic survival and look at things like commerce, art, and science unless a quality of life can be guaranteed by the concept of people living and cohabitating peacefully together. Ethics requires trust. Imagine the chaos if when you went to the grocery store and you bought a box of cereal, that you had no reason to believe that there would actually be cereal in the box. Imagine how hard it would be to go to a school if you were not sure that what the teacher was telling you was actually true. They were a chronic liar and made stuff up. Our society only works if we cooperate together, and that means that it takes each of us, including you as an individual, to contribute to that. Finally, one of the most important reasons for ethical behavior is that ethics is at the core of our very humanity. A distinguishing feature of human beings are our complex social bonds, and those are based on mutual cooperation. No animal on the planet is more social than a human being. Consider the very concept that millions of people can live in the same city, drive the same streets, use the same subways, go to the same stores. The level of cooperation between human beings on a day-to-day interaction is astounding. Antisocial behavior, unethical behavior, is demonstrated by a lack of moral self-control. Very often, antisocial behavior, immoral behavior, violent behavior, and an absence of social self-restraint is even considered a sign of mental illness. To become the best person you are, to develop fully as a human being, requires that you be able to interact with others in an ethical manner, that you are truthful, that you are dependable, that you can build social bonds and relationships. If you are a taker and not a giver, if you are a rule breaker, if you are a liar, if you are a cheat, you will always be outside of the mainstream. You will always be less developed as a human being than those around you. Another fundamental question in ethics is, why should we study ethics? Certainly, we all feel like we know right from wrong. We've been taught by parents and teachers and ministers for our entire lives as to what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior. Interestingly enough, the world is full of examples of people who, with good intentions, did things that ended up with bad results. We're judged by what we do, not by what we intend. The truth of the matter is that life is complicated, and we're often presented with moral and ethical dilemmas. Your best friend is cheating on a test. Should you turn them in? Your loyalty to your friend may likely tell you that you shouldn't. But yet, you have an ethical obligation to create a level playing field for everyone in the classroom. As we get older, ethical decisions become more and more complex, and the consequences of our decisions become more and more important. So we study ethics, and we consider what is right and wrong to develop a strong moral compass so that we have something to follow when difficult decisions are placed in front of us. The final question is why is the study of ethics important as future firefighters? As a career, the fire service is hyper-dependent upon ethics. To function, the fire service requires a great deal of trust from the public. We have access to people's homes, to their lives, to their secrets. We are entrusted with protecting their lives and property. Those things are placed in our hands. Firefighting is about protecting things of great social and moral value. If we are not trustworthy, if we do not live up to the expectations that people put in us, it will hamper our ability to function as a career. And make no mistake about it, whether it be an explorer working or visiting a fire department, a probationary firefighter, or the fire chief, the actions of one individual associated with a fire department reflects on that department as a whole. If you do a Google image search of firefighter, you'll see hundreds and hundreds of pictures of firefighters doing heroic things. You'll also see the hero concept associated with patriotism. The fire service has an image of honor. In fact, we are one of the most respected professions in existence. The trust and heroism that firefighters have built, that image, has been built over 300 years. As a future firefighter, you have an obligation to honor that legacy and to live up to those standards. The image of the firefighter allows us to do our job. It also is important in our pursuit of a living wage, of maintaining rules and standards that protect us, protect our safety. And the actions of a few can damage an entire department or even a profession. I'll use law enforcement as a brief cautionary tale. I support law enforcement. What they do is incredibly important. Yet, because of the actions of a few people, and because those actions are broadcast worldwide through social media, the very trust that people have in law enforcement has been somewhat shaken. True, it's a divisive issue, and many people support law enforcement without any reservation. Other people are afraid of law enforcement. And whether we like it or not, fear of law enforcement makes law enforcement's job more dangerous and much more hard. We're also, in recent years, have seen movements to defund police departments, to cut back on police departments, staffing, to curtail their rights and privileges and their responsibilities. This is directly related to their image within the community. Bad image also makes it tougher to get quality people to join. If law enforcement is constantly perceived as a profession under assault, it makes it harder for people, quality people, to want to become involved in law enforcement. We don't want the fire service to suffer the same problem. Therefore, it's important that everyone who wants to enter the fire service have a clear view of the ethical and moral responsibilities that they will be facing as future firefighters.